Welcome back to another episode of Out of Focus, and today is a special episode, and I say that because this person I've never met, but I kind of followed your journey throughout this whole process. I mean, a lot of people don't know that, this is why I bring people on the show, because, I follow your journey, and I want to, dive deeper into what you been through as far as from growing up as a kid to where you are now.
Okay.
As a DJ, as a person, and some, I'll throw some other questions in there too.
Yeah, I got you.
So
don't want to give them too much yet.
Right. Stevie Chanel is your DJ name. So tell people, growing up in, I don't know if you grew up in Toledo. Okay. So growing up in Toledo, and what kind of struggles, or what was the situation growing up here in the city?
So I was born in Dayton, and that part of the story is kind of fuzzy. Somewhere between a couple months old, though. And like 6 months, I ended up in Toledo. My dad grabbed me, and I came to Toledo to stay with his mom, and I believe when he dropped me off, it was supposed to be for a minute while he got his stuff together. And to put it in context, I moved out of my grandmother's house when I was 25 years old. So she ended up raising me the entire time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how was that as far as your relationship with your father? How did you handle that?
It was difficult. You don't really understand things when you're a kid and you see your cousins and your friends being raised by their parents,
right?
But your situation is very different. My father was an addict for like the first 15 years of my life. He ended up getting sober and we reconnected. He's like my best friend now, but that was just a struggle. And as far as my mom, it's kind of really hard to put that situation into words. Like, we're good now, but I think as a kid, I would go visit her and I would just be like, it's not like she lived in a trap or, I'm like, she's
just
seemed well off. She seemed well off and like put together. So it was hard for me to understand how I just didn't live with her, and I have some information now, just as far as, some of her struggles and things like that. But yeah, it was just difficult. It was difficult. It just, I think, kind of put a little hole in my heart pretty early on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that shaped how you had relationships with men or women growing up?
Definitely. What I now know through my therapeutic journey is that, I felt abandoned by them. And because of that led me to be in very codependent relationships. And I don't know if anybody really knows about those, but they kind of end up being very toxic. What the public kind of deems as like, oh, they just toxic, and it's actually like codependency and can end up like trauma bonded.
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, I don't know. I can't say we all been through that, but I think I've been through the trauma bond situation.
Yeah.
Even, not trying to put my business out there, but even with my kid's mother, it's like when I was around 19 years old, my mother put me out the house. Because I'm a man, I'm supposed to be, taking care of business. I ended up getting my girlfriend pregnant at the time. And it's like we both, and of course, her mother put her out because she got pregnant.
Yeah,
so,
dang, yeah.
And she was only 17. So that kind of connected us. But at the same time, like, we didn't know what we were doing. Like, we were kids. And that right there is like, we went through so much because I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
As a man. Because I was still a kid,
yeah,
and as far as my thought process and my maturity, so I understand the trauma bond. Like, it is not very toxic. Very toxic.
Yeah. What I know it to be is essentially it becomes an addiction to a human.
Yep.
And it's just very hard to break those.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't talk about that though. A lot of don't talk about the addiction to being with somebody who you're not supposed to be with. I don't care what the situation is or how, like, if you have kids together, but if you are in a situation where you're toxic and things are being done and said and it's not healthy for either of you, like that's not good at all.
It's not. And you feel like there's almost like no way out,
Yeah.
you know, depending on financial situations
Yep.
or, you know, we got these kids and,
Yep.
you know what I mean? Like, you know, it's tough. It really, really is, you know. And I know mine just escalated over time. Like, it was like we had a stint where it was good. And this is my first lesbian relationship also. So we had a stint when it was good. And then when it went left, it just stayed left. But it just got progressively worse and worse and worse from verbal to physical, you know what I mean? And it's just like, how did I get here?
Right.
You know, and also, you know, you got the whole world looking at you or your people looking at you like, why are you staying?
Right.
And you don't really have a real reason. So you end up kind of like in like this weird like denial.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and you start making excuses and
I've been there.
all type of stuff, man.
What's crazy is when I was going through this situation is as many times as we broke up and I packed bags and went back to my mother's house or went to my grandmother's house. And it's like, I know they're sick of me.
Yeah.
I know they're sick of this situation. It's like, you don't understand. You don't get it until there's like a last straw.
Yes.
And there was a last straw. And I was like, you know what? I can't put us through this anymore.
Yeah.
Even our kids, like I can't put our kids through this anymore. Like you have to break it. You have to break it. And when you break it, what people don't get is that you actually go through withdrawals. Major your stomach
Like
turning.
sick.
And,
Sick.
Like I felt like I was going to die.
Yeah.
And that's how you know that is a bond that you're not supposed to have.
Absolutely.
Very unhealthy.
Very, very unhealthy.
But it's good to have the maturity. Even sometimes it's not even maturity. It's just like that one situation that gets you to say, you know what, I'm done, or this is not going to work. And that's what we did. We had to come to a mutual agreement. Like, you know what, we're good just being parents.
Yeah.
Other than that, you know, it's not going to work together.
Yeah, and I think that's the blessing is that, you know, there was no kids involved, and even though it wasn't a clean break, you know, we kind of did a little back and forth, you know, there for a minute. But like when I was done, you know, and we haven't like got to this part of my story, but I ended that relationship in January or February of 2022.
Okay.
And I ended up in rehab.
Wow.
In August of 22.
Okay.
And so 6 months from after leaving that relationship, you know, those 6 months for me were literally hell. Like I couldn't function.
Wow.
Yeah, and it just
was it because of the relationship or because of other things?
Well, for me, the relationship, you know, that toxic situation, it came with a lot of drinking to cope. You know, I just was having this conversation when I was getting my hair done with my stylist, and I was, you know, because she's a mutual, and we were talking about it, and I was like, you know, it's crazy because nobody really understands. You don't understand when you're in it, like how bad it really is, and then you get out, and I literally just could not function. Like my alcoholism progressed as our toxic behaviors.
That's what you depended on.
Yeah, that's what I depended on was her and alcohol essentially. So yeah, I ended up in rehab for a medical detox.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let's go back and talk about how you got there.
Okay.
How you got in the situation as far as the alcoholism.
Okay. That's layered. I think it was like childhood stuff. You know, I think statistically speaking, it might be 1 in 4 addicts, alcoholics have childhood trauma. So I think that's a part of it. And then from my family was like close but toxic a little bit still and like dysfunctional.
Right.
And when I came out the closet, I had a 2-year-old daughter, and I came out the closet, kind of got pushed out actually, but just neither here nor there. And they did not accept it.
Wow.
And so I think that kind of reopened what I experienced with my parents. And so that relationship became like my lifeline. That was it. It was just me.
That's all you
had. Me
had.
and her. Yeah, it was just me, her, and my daughter. You know, and of course I had friends and things like that. But as far as like family, you know, I felt very very judged, and you know, we spent a little time in separation, you know, there. Like I wouldn't go to family reunions or come around, and then that, it didn't help that the relationship turned toxic, because then that gives them all the ammunition to not be fans of not only the relationship but also my lifestyle. Right.
And that's a conversation that a lot of families don't have, is the acceptance of homosexuality.
Yeah.
Especially coming from a family who was raised in church. And it's like you're deemed to be blasphemous or evil because you are born into this lifestyle. And it's hard. Because that's all, as growing up in church, that's all we're taught, is that this is evil, this is good, this is the why you shouldn't do this, and this is what the Bible says. And how did you finally say, okay, I don't care what you think, I don't care what you believe, this is who I am? And did your family say, okay, we accept it?
I think over time they accepted it. You know, I think it was just like, I'm the first openly gay person in my family. I can't speak for what anybody has done, you know, but as far as me, I'm the first to like live that, you know, in the public eye. And I think they had like their worries. I think they knew some things come with that, you know, and mental health is one of those, right? Yeah. People who are homosexual struggle with mental health a lot, but it is because of the judgment that comes from other people. But once I got to a place where I accepted me, everything got like easier in a sense. Yeah. You know, but I don't even think I accepted me early on. You know, like I always felt different. You know, my granny tried to make me like a prima donna. I did gymnastics and dance and all of these things. But by the time I was like 9 or 10, like I was like, yo, I want a PlayStation and a basketball. Right. You know, so I they knew I was a tomboy essentially. Like we didn't really know what was, you know, what it was. But obviously I was just different. Yeah. And I had been different my whole life. And, you know, when you live, it's like a out of body experience, you know, because I was in this relationship and ended up having a daughter, but none of that felt fulfilling. You know, I just knew something about my life wasn't right. Right. You know, and I had to explore that, and I didn't know where that would lead me, but obviously, you know, now I'm a lesbian essentially. So that kind of went into, of course, mental health, and then you get into, as an adult, alcoholism, because you have to find a way to cope. Yes. And deal with yourself, the judgment of other people. So talk about that. Like how, you know, you get into this relationship, you are kind of disowned by your family. So the alcoholism came in during that time. And it started as just partying. Yeah. You know, like that's like how natural, it starts. It's just natural. You know, I was also young still. Yeah. So, you know, it kind of just started as like the weekend partying, you know, but as I started to experience my own struggles and minimal other coping skills, you know, music has always been an outlet for me, you know, but I even had kind of stopped doing that. And, you know, you start getting older, you're like, oh, maybe this ain't, maybe I can't follow my dream. You know, I got to be a parent and be responsible and take care of my kid. And I think it just, it again, is progressive. So you don't know when you're in it that the habits that you're forming are going to lead you to where it led me. But it definitely did, you know. It started with weekends and, you know, and then you look up and it's a Monday after work and you drinking, and then you drinking on break at work. And so then you wake up and you drinking, and it literally just happens. Wow. You know, like when I think back, it just happened, but it was a slow and progressive, you know, and I think it got to a point where I was like the drunk friend. I would just always overdrink, but even at some point, some of my friends was like, "Yo, this might be a problem," you know, and it took a series of conversations and probably years and consequences, wrecked cars, evictions. You know what I mean? And just not being able to like get right and losing jobs. yeah, eventually I'm like, okay, this is a problem.
Yeah.
This is a problem.
But even when you're in that problem, you know it's a problem, but you don't see a way out.
You don't see a way out.
Yeah.
You don't see a way out because you feel like a lot of people struggle to sit with themselves, you know, and I hadn't done that in so long.
Yeah.
You know, and it was just like a fear, you know, and it becomes your identity too.
Yeah.
You know, the struggle, the drunk friend. You get what I'm saying? Like it really does. It just becomes your identity, and people around you kind of get tired of it, and eventually it started to lead to the loss of like relationships, and not the toxic relationship, but the good ones, because people don't want to stay around and watch you self implode like this. So, you know, I looked up one day and felt like I had nothing or anybody, you know, and like when you was talking about like that final straw in a relationship, you know, I looked up and it's like, dang, you know, I was raised by my grandmother. She's sick. I can't go back there. You know what I mean? Like I'm broke for real. I ain't got no car. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like what am I about to do? You know, and I sat with that. I ended up staying with a family member. But again, I was going through withdrawal from that relationship, and I imploded and ended up having what I now know is an alcohol-induced bipolar episode, where I felt very out of body. Like I felt for the first time I was out of control in a to the point where it scared me. I'm like, bro, you might die. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's literally how I felt in that moment, was like I might die. And I just remember calling my aunt one night and saying like, I think I want to go get help, you know? And I was drunk when I called, and she talked to me, and she always talked to me, which is crazy because she would listen to me ramble for hours, you know, because I would get emotional when I drunk. And so everybody kind of knew that there was something that was going unaddressed. And I just remember her telling me, she was like, well, you know, get some rest and basically like do your best tonight. And if you still feel the same way in the morning, you know, we'll figure something out. And so I did. I called her in the morning, and she said, you have to make these phone calls. And so I got on Google and just looked for like alcoholic treatment. Ended up calling a guy. We went through an assessment. I was drunk through the assessment. Wow. You know, which is nothing that they're, now I know is this, that's what they do. Right, they're used to all of that. So yeah, I was drunk through the assessment, and he tried to get me to go to like a treatment facility in like California, I believe. And I kept in communication with my aunt, and I told her that. And so he ended up calling her because she was like, you know, I don't know if this is a scam. And also then she was in communication with like my dad and my grandparents also, because I was only communicating with her, but she was communicating with everybody else. Okay. And so as a unit, they decided that California wasn't a good idea. Nobody trusted me to get off the plane and do what I was supposed to do. Yeah. And so I had to find something here. That was the decision, right? You can't go that far, you know. And so, again, a series of calls, and ended up finding Midwest Detox. I remember it took me 2 weeks to go. Like, they called me every day. And it would be like, okay, yeah, I'll be there about 6 p.m. or, you know, but, you know, I would start drinking. Wow. And you get what I'm saying? Yeah. Wouldn't pack my bag, or wouldn't, you know, do what I needed to do. And yeah, man, eventually my aunt was like, maybe they should come pick you up. Like, maybe nobody should drop you off. Maybe they should come pick you up. And one day we was like, all right, you know, and then they offered. It was like, we'll come get you. And I was just like, okay. And so, yeah, just went. Had no idea what that looked like. I knew I was going to be on blackout, no phone, no nothing for like 6 days. And just didn't know what that process looked like until I started it.
And Matt Bill?
Yes.
Team Recovery?
Yes.
So shout out to them first. The everything that they do, he actually went through the process himself, which is a testimony as to how you can start and how you finish. Absolutely. It's not how you start, but it's how you finish. And you're the same way, going into the program and now becoming whatever you are now. I want CDCA, you to talk about that.
Yeah, CDCA, which is a chemical dependency counselor assistant. Right, so I had to do some online modules and got that. So let's backtrack just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I went and detoxed somewhere. While I was detoxing, I met this lady. Her name was Angie, and I really hope she hears this because I haven't seen her in a while. But she was my roommate when we were detoxing, and so like I was like 3-4 days in, so I was coming off of alcohol, so I was pretty much okay at that point, you know. But she came in and she was coming off of like everything, you know. So I watched her like struggle for like 3 days. And then I'll never forget, like, one day we were outside on the patio, like vaping and just kind of just talking and whatever. And she popped out and I had no idea who she was because she looked totally different. You know what I'm saying? In the room, like she had showered and did her hair and all of this stuff. And I remember this lady came in, like redhead, like frail lady, right? And she was shaking so bad. Like she was trying to light a cigarette and her hands was just doing this. And Angie looked at me. I was like, what is she coming off of? And Angie said, alcohol. She said, here goes you.
Wow.
If you don't stop.
Wow.
And I'll never forget that. I will never forget that moment. That lives with me still. So Team Recovery was new. I think they had opened at like the end of June. And I think this is August. So I didn't know anything about them. And because I went to Midwest on private insurance, it wasn't Medicaid at the time for me. It was private insurance. So the private insurance wouldn't continue my care.
Wow.
They had to send me home. But I had found out about Team Recovery. So I went back to my cousin's house for like 2 days. And then I'm just like, I don't know if I can do this. You know, and like I went to meetings and did the recommendations. Right. I'm just like, I don't know, you know? And so I made the phone call to Team Recovery. And that's when I was like, I told them about the private insurance and you have to have Medicaid to go to these places. And so the intake guy was like, well, let me just check, right? Let me just check. Because sometimes, you know what I mean, I had been working at a factory. So he's like, you know, they may not have stopped your Medicaid just because you had private insurance. And sure enough, when he ran I think it's like a SOARS or something like that he can look up with my social security number, I had Medicaid. And he's like, we got a bed for you if you can be here tomorrow. And here goes me. Can I just come on Monday? And he asked me, he's like, well, what you gonna do the weekend? Right. I'm like, man, I don't even know. But I just, you know, I don't want to do this. But I ended up going and I stayed at Team Recovery as a client for 8 months. 8 months of what I know to be IOP, so intensive outpatient programming. And upon completion, I was offered a job.
Wow.
Yeah, I was offered a job. And then I had to go get my CDCA and became a group facilitator at about a year sober. And that's what I still do, kind of still considering going to school for social work and trying to, you know, progress.
Yeah. And I watched one of the videos of Matt talking about how the clients now how they speak about you and how they're comfortable with talking to you about their journey with you. And do you believe that's because of how open you are as a person? I
think it has a lot to do with it. Yeah. I don't sugarcoat anything, right? I know what I experienced, and I know what life looks like now, and I know that if they listen, it can look the same or similar for them, right? But I also understand that early in this process, we have a lot of thinking errors and, you know, we make a lot of excuses and we blaming other people. We're victims and, you know, just zero accountability. So a lot of treatment early on is just learning how to take accountability for the reason why you end up in this seat. Like, yes, I had some help, parents, and I had some help, toxic relationship. But, you know, even in that relationship, everybody can't blame her because I was still a willing participant despite my struggles. Right. You know, there was plenty of times I could have left and I didn't, you know, and I had to take accountability for all of that. And that's not an easy thing to do. So I think, you know, being open and honest with them about my current struggles even helps them, you know what I mean? Like be able to relate. Yeah.
Because recovery doesn't mean that you're perfect.
No, absolutely
And that's what everything, like a lot of men, and they don't want to talk about this, deal with complacency as men growing up. I dealt with that growing up, going from high school. And I don't want to place blame on anything, but my parents got a divorce when I was 17 years old. I was playing basketball at Scott as a freshman. 15 years old, I tore my knee out. So my sophomore year. So, and then the next year, my parents get a divorce. So it's like I was dealing with...
That's a lot.
Depression, yeah. I was depressed because all this was happening at one time. I'm like, what's going on with my life at 15, 16 years old? It's like, what do I do? And me having to go out and get a job at 15, 14 years old and be part of the provider for the house because my father wasn't there. Him and my mother were going through the divorce and everything. He was a preacher. So it's like you look up to this guy, but at the same time, the situation at home.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with a lot of emotions. And so you become complacent. It's like, I don't want to deal with reality.
Yes.
I don't want to move forward because I don't like the path of my life right now. But instead of saying, okay, just let me pull up my bootstraps and go after it, I was like, what do I do? Like, I don't know. Even though I do know what to do, you become dependent on that depression and say, oh, I'm depressed. I can't deal with it.
And it becomes like we don't learn to manage. We just use what we're dealing with as a way to justify.
Justify our actions.
Justify our actions, and that just can lead us to a terrible place. I think my first time dealing with depression was probably around 14 or 15 too. I was a freshman, sophomore in high school, and I think I gained like 50 pounds, and I'm like 5'2", so on my little frame, that was a lot.
Wow.
I don't think I've ever been that heavy even in my adult life.
Yeah.
But you don't know what you're dealing with.
At all.
I also didn't come from a family who like talked about emotions and things like that. So I don't know what it is that I'm experiencing. I just know that I don't want to eat and I don't want to get out of bed and you know what I mean? Like I don't want to do anything. I have zero motivation.
And back then, especially growing up in the church, it's like, don't depend on the world as far as mental health because you want to depend on God and prayer and all this stuff. But so mental health is a stigma. Like you don't talk about that. We talk about prayer and depending on God. Prayer. And that is not what God wants us to do.
Absolutely not. I always tell people like God told me to get sober. He came and got me at my lowest moment and said, go get help. He didn't say, I'm going to fix you.
Right.
He said, go get help.
Yeah.
It's not that I wasn't praying, or things like that.
Right.
And I think that was the answer. I wanted relief. I did. I wanted my life to change. I didn't want to have these struggles anymore. And what I prayed for essentially was answered by going to seek help. I always tell people, because I have people who still, they'll challenge it or, like my mental health journey and what I do. And it's like, we do God's work. We deal with people at their lowest moments.
Yeah.
Right? We deal with people at their lowest moments. These are people who society or family has thrown away. They're hopeless. So how do you not see the God in that?
Right.
So I'm an advocate for pray. Yes.
Right.
Pray. God first.
But,
and a clinical intervention right after.
Right. But and I know this is not in the scripture and not in the Bible, but don't be so earthly minded that don't be so heavenly minded that you're no earthly good.
Yes.
And that means that don't depend so much on heaven or your thoughts on God that you forget about He put people on this earth to help. To help,
yes.
If I'm praying and I don't put forth effort or the works itself, faith without works is dead. If I don't put the work together, like there's no point of prayer because He gives you the means of getting things done and to help yourself to find the help because we can't just go around and quoting scriptures and praying and doing all this stuff and not do the actual work.
Yes. Absolutely. And people get stuck in that, right? Because you almost feel like, well, I can't be dependent on man because I gotta be dependent on God.
That's
But
ignorance.
I look at any social worker that I know, they were literally called into that job. Like that's not even a job or a profession.
It's not a fancy job. Or it's not an upskill like, ooh, I'm a social. No, that is a laborer's job. That is a selfless job. You're putting yourself on.
And sometimes a thankless job.
Yes.
Right? Sometimes a thankless job, and people don't really understand that. So, I understand why, and I'll speak specifically to like the African American community, but I understand why, right? That the Bible was given to us, you know what I mean, centuries ago.
Yeah.
And so I understand why that is such a staple in our community, but it's like, but also, do you see the things that our community struggles with? There has to be something else that we're missing. And I do think a lot of it is like the mental health aspect of things, like while I was in treatment, I was the only Black client for a while, like my first few, and I realized being in that space that we're not seeking out these resources, but they're there. Yeah. They're there. And I had no idea that you could go to treatment for alcoholism until I had to find a solution. I had no idea that Midwest and Team Recovery had just opened and there was another one over here, and I had no idea that these places even existed, so that's why I decided to be so public with my journey. Part of it was because I was popular and I needed the accountability, but another part was if there's anybody out there that doesn't know a way out, I want to make sure that they know that there is a way out of their struggles, and not that I'll never have struggles, but I don't have to struggle like that.
Right. Yeah, and I think we as Black people, African Americans, or American Blacks, because a lot of us didn't come from Africa. That's a different conversation.
That's a whole other conversation.
But I just think we don't put forth the work to research, and that's with everything. That's with even business and finding funding and grants and finding out how to do this and how to do that. We just say, okay, I don't know how to do it, so I'm just gonna make it up. I don't know, or just go through it because I don't know how to fix it. Instead of doing the research or asking questions. Like, I don't mind people coming and ask me questions like, how did you build this, and how did you get this to work, and that's why I have these workshops to help people to, if you want to become a podcaster, content creator, like I have these workshops to teach you how to do these things. But we don't like to share. We don't like to ask questions. Yeah. And I think we need to get over that.
Yeah.
Because that'll hinder us from a blessing or something that we, probably should have in our lives.
Yeah, and I think we struggle with inadequacy in a way that most people don't really understand. My first experiences with racism were, young. In high school, I went to Central, and it was still a predominantly white school at the time, and an okay environment, but again, we were still a vast minority. Yeah. But I went to Central coming from an all Black private school. So, that was like a culture shock, and everybody didn't like the fact that we were there. Right. And so it kind of is just like, how? Like, what did I do to you? And it's like, it's all because of the color of my skin, and that's just, and I think that's, we end up with this very like defensive posture just to life and to help, because we don't like to seem weak. Yeah. But I saw, I listen to Nipsey a lot. That's my guy. And one of the things he says, I'll steal advice. If you don't want to give it to me, like I'm a listen to your podcast, and I'm a read your stuff, and I'm a find a way, to do it myself. And I really like that, because everybody isn't gonna give you a handout. Right. But I always tell people, but a lot of people will give you a hand up if you're willing to do the work, and I feel like my life is a living testimony to that. Yeah.
So you go from the recovery center. Now you are a advocate and more. But being a DJ, that journey itself is a whole different story.
Yeah.
And being a female DJ is part of that story. Talk about that, getting into that and trying to get in your foot in the door as a DJ.
So I started DJing before my recovery journey. Most people who know me know that part. But obviously, right, my alcoholism kind of took that away from me.
Yeah.
But I feel like I was pretty known. I think I did have a name, you know, and it wasn't totally tarnished at the time. And so, you know, I would get looks here and there, you know, and just at that point I realized that now that was just more of like my network. Yeah. You know, like I just had a network of friends because I had been doing music prior to DJing. I rapped. Okay. So, you know what I mean? So for me to go into the DJ space, it wasn't far off for people. It was like, okay, this makes sense. Right. Let's see what, you know what I'm saying? Let's see what she got. And so I did that for about, it was like 2020. So I did that for about a year and a half. But eventually, right, drinking will make you lose your hand-eye coordination. Yeah. So it ended up just being sloppy behind a board and, you know, just like a whole lot of just dumb stuff took place, you know. So I ended up kind of not DJing. And so
you put yourself on the sideline.
Yeah. Because I think I probably could have continued, but it was just like I was starting to wake up to the problem. Yeah. You know, to the fact that the alcohol was a problem. And so I was on a sideline. You know, I spent 22 not DJing at all. And when I completed treatment, I actually, which is ironic, I celebrated because I completed like a day before, the day after my birthday. I want to say the day before. So I completed my program, my IOP program, and I decided to, I had talked to Kavina, who is the owner of Allure, and that's like my homegirl from high school. So, you know, I was like, yeah, I want to come DJ, you know? And so it was kind of ironic that I celebrated my sobriety and my completion of this program in a bar, and I think it threw everybody off. Wow. Right, it threw everybody off. But here's the secret to that was that I had a therapist in treatment. His name was Tim, and that was my guy. And I told him in the beginning that if I was gonna be squeamish around alcohol, then they might as well just go ahead and discharge me because I don't want to do this. Because alcohol is so prevalent. Where can you go? Right. Yeah. Without seeing it. Yeah. Or at being around it. Right. I also know my family. I know my friends. This is a problem for me, but it's not a problem for everybody else. And I don't want to feel like I have to go be in this bubble to be okay. Right. And so the whole time I was in treatment, I went back to my bowling team. Right. My bowling team didn't even want me to come back. They were like, no, just do that. Yeah. Do that. Get yourself together. Yeah. But I'm like, nah, you feel me? Like I kind of need this, you know? And so every Sunday I would leave, you know, one of them would come pick me up and I would go to the bowling alley, and bowling alley for me was a very toxic place, Sunday fun day. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I would sit there with my team, and they would do what they do, and I would just be sober. But I also knew that these 4 people would hold me accountable. The bartenders at the bowling alley would hold me accountable. Nobody in that space was going to let me do it, even if I wanted to. Right. I knew that it was a very accountable, safe place. So if I was in treatment for 8 months, from October to, I want to say I completed, I was going bowling every Sunday. But that set the stage for me to be able to get out and do what I do now. And that's a part of the story that I don't think I tell a lot, but you know, my bowling team was essential in giving me like that exposure. Yeah. Right? It's considered exposure therapy, but everybody can't do exposure therapy, but I'm blessed to be one of those people who was able to. And it just kind of helped me have a tolerance for being around alcohol, smelling it, seeing it, and not reacting. And our brain is so powerful that you can literally rewire it just through different actions. Yeah. So just from me being around it and not indulging, now I can be around it and pretty much be like unbothered, you know? And so coming back out, I spent that summer at Allure DJing on Saturdays in a weekend spot for brunch. And I just kind of, I got into like mashups and became kind of like, doing the content. And it just kind of like took off from there. I didn't know where it was going to go or anything like that. But going into 2023, it was probably the busiest. I won't say the busiest of all years because I've kind of continued that. But it really set the stage, the private parties. I started getting considered for weddings and all of these things because I just sounded different. But I also had a new passion just for life, not just, DJing, but being in those spaces and being clear-minded actually worked in my benefit.
Yeah, and I had this conversation with one of my old business partners, Leah, about what we need to do in order to move forward in business and life, period. So, of course, as a kid, I played video games all my life. Madden, 2K, wrestling, like anything. So I didn't think that was a problem. But in business, that is a problem.
It's a problem, yeah.
Because I was so involved with playing video games that it took away from me being the business person that I wanted to be. So once I decided, I didn't know what it was. Like, I thought I was just not good at doing business. Like, I just thought that, okay, I can't focus. Like, something's wrong with my focus. No, what was going on is I was using that dopamine fix on video games.
Yep.
That high of, okay, I'm NBA 2K, I'm this guy, and I'm made it to the NBA Finals, or I made it to the Super Bowl as my team on Madden. So that fix right there was my success.
Yes.
So that was my dopamine fix. But now that I put the games away, I'm like, wait a minute. So I could have been doing this the whole time? Because now my focus is different. My focus is driven on success, on how I can build this, how I can generate leads with this and this and this. I do so much research, like at even at home, sitting like watching TV, but I'm on my iPad or my computer, like doing research. Yep. I never found myself doing that, but because I put that away, that changed my perspective on what I'm supposed to be focused on. And I believe that's the same thing that happened to you.
Yes, because it's not rocket science. In order to progress and to add new things or get better at new things, sometimes our superpower is what we can remove to make space. So I had to remove alcohol. You had to remove the video games, right, to make space to build whatever skill it is that we're trying to build. And I kind of adopted like Mamba mentality from Kobe Bryant, right? So, you hear these people say, just stack the days, just keep stacking days, right? So I was just stacking sober days for 8-9 months, right? But now I'm back outside. So now it's stack gigs, right? Now I'm stacking gigs, now I'm in the gym, I'm watching my body change. I'm healthier than I've ever been in my whole entire life, and then it's stacking money. Now I'm more and I just watched all of these things change because I decided to remove one thing. One thing. I removed one thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it changed my entire life. And it doesn't just have to be alcohol or drugs. Sometimes it is the toxic relationship. Sometimes it is video games. Sometimes it is like the food we eat or whatever it is, right? Everybody has their own struggle. And it's in the removal of the bad habit that we grow, and you just watch yourself kind of just skyrocket.
Yeah, like, you kind of like amused, amused or amazed with yourself, like, wow, like
this is me. It's like, wow, how did I? But it's not rocket science.
No, and another thing that plays a part, and we'll talk about this towards the end of the show, is gratitude. Like, gratitude is very, it's very important to me because. Not just because I grew up in church, but because I learned actually I learned this when I left the church. Between the time when I was out of church, I learned this. I learned that if you give gratitude, in the worst situations, I'm still thankful. Yep. When I'm going through the worst time of my life, when I'm sleeping in my car in Los Angeles, I'm having gratitude. I still have gratitude. I'm thankful that I'm still alive, I'm still breathing, and I have a way to make things better.
Yes. Yes.
I learned that gratitude in the biggest moments of success and in the lowest moments in life, it should be the same.
Should be the same. Absolutely. I agree. And I think the church kind of like teaches us that, but they don't use, I don't know if they necessarily use the word gratitude, right? Because it's like praise him in advance or worship through the storm.
Right.
You know, but
some people don't understand that. They don't understand the worship through the storm because it's so spiritual.
It's such a spiritual process.
Yeah.
You know, but I think the worship part is just knowing, like you said, that I'm still here and I still have a fighting chance at making my life better. And I didn't understand that until there's a part of the story where I was 102 days sober and my grandmother passed away. And I remember I was at work, I was at Olive Garden, right? While I was in treatment, I was working at Olive Garden, and I was on FaceTime with my cousins. And at this point, we kind of had already knew that she was transitioning. We knew that it was just a matter of time at this point, in a short period of time. I had spent a week or two prior to that just going over there when I could, when I didn't have to work, and spending time with her and my family while I was in treatment. And I remember getting off the phone with them, and I walked. Olive Garden is literally down the street. It's like a 10-minute walk to Team Recovery. And I remember walking, and I played Yolanda Adams' "The Battle Is Not Yours" from Olive Garden all the way to going back into my apartment. I played it while I was in the shower, and I played it on my way to sleep. And then I woke up out of my sleep at 12:45, and my aunt was calling to tell me that my grandmother had transitioned. And that was such a spiritual experience for me, because up until that point, I hadn't necessarily found a way to depend on God again. You know, I was working on that relationship, but I wasn't really sure, because I'm still kind of out of my mind because I'm sobering up, you know, but I up until that point, and I just knew that none of that was by chance. That was God letting me know that what you are about to experience is not your battle. Yeah. This is mine. Give it to me.
It's crazy how he does this. Like, even like, you don't know what storm is coming.
You have no idea.
Like, you don't know.
You have no idea.
Like, you don't know what's ahead of you. You know what's behind you. You know what you've been through. You know what you're going through right now, but you don't know what's ahead of you. And he prepares you. Even when we don't know we're being prepared for it. Like we're just so ignorant as human beings on this earth as to know what God has for us, even the blessings that he has for us. So it's like, being that being said, is let's have gratitude no matter what. I think that because of that, I've said prayers for my mother and my sister and my aunt, who all dealt with cancer. And I've been praying ever since, the first day my mother was diagnosed, and they all three have recovered from cancer. And I know it's not just because of my prayer, but I think it's because of the consistent prayer, the consistent gratitude, that God looks at us and say, you know what? Okay. Now you're starting to understand now.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I hope, this is why I have these conversations, is that other people can take from what we say and try to apply it to, what they're dealing with or their lives, as far as learning to cope and deal with life as it is and still have gratitude. Yes,
because it's not even it could always be worse, or there's people starving or anything like that, right? But I'm not going to be blessed with more if I don't have gratitude and I don't value what I have, right? Because one thing I'm learning is that it's a mindset, right? I believe that it's like an energy almost, right?
No,
like
it is.
You can't fake gratitude. It's either you have it or you don't. Yep. I'm just blessed to have been able to find that out. And it's not just because of what I went through, but I have immense gratitude for my life and being booked, right? I don't always necessarily want to take the gig, but I also asked for this.
Yeah. I know that feeling.
I've also asked for this, so I can't just decide to quit.
Right.
Because I'm tired, or you know what I mean? I believe that gratitude has helped me just shift the the direction of my life.
Yeah, Israel Adesanya, the UFC fighter. I don't know if you know him, but he said every day he thinks of 3 things that he's grateful for every single day. Mm-hmm. But he said that trained his mind into looking for gratitude.
Yep.
So now that he looks for gratitude, it just becomes a habit. Mm-hmm. It becomes a habit every single day. What am I thankful for? 3 different things that I'm grateful for every single day. And I think that's a mindset that has made him successful and that can make others successful. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to start doing that.
Absolutely.
I'm going to start doing that. Even though I've done the prayer of gratitude every single day, but now looking for something, like I'm grateful for making it home every single day safely. I'm grateful for my kids to be alive and safe every single day. I'm grateful to have food on my table every single day. And I don't work a 9 to 5. This is my job.
Yeah, so that's a huge blessing.
Right. And I'm thankful for that. Like working at Chrysler is a mundane thing. Like I don't want to shoot anybody who works there. Like as far as that's their career and they have fun doing it, or they depend on that. That's fine. I depended on that for 13 years. But having the freedom to go to work and do what I enjoyed: videography, graphic design, hosting other people's podcasts. Just doing that and using the gifts that's given to me, like I'm thankful for that.
Absolutely.
And I have to learn, or I've learned to not take it for granted.
Absolutely.
Because you can lose this at any time.
Any moment. And I think one thing that I'm learning, because I work a full-time job and then I do DJing also. And you're speaking about being like a full-time entrepreneur. Yeah. One of the things that I started to realize was that the more freedom that I acquired in life, the more disciplined I have to be, because entrepreneurship is not for the weak.
No, and it's not a 9 to 5. No. It's a 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Yeah.
Or more.
Yeah.
And because, especially in a place like this, because somebody could book a podcast in the morning. I have a shoot in the middle of the day. And then somebody could say, well, I want to do my podcast at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say no.
No. Right.
No, I have to be here. Yeah. This is my job.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's no longer a 40-hour week. You work 80 hours a week and probably make half of what you make on a 40-hour week sometimes. Mm-hmm. But that's just being, the freedom of entrepreneurship. But you putting in the work is the fun part. Is like, dang, like I'm really doing this. It's hard. It's stressful, but I'm surviving.
And I'm sure it's rewarding.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's rewarding. And to put it in context, right, for me, like being a group facilitator, gratitude is one of those things I was taught that a grateful addict would never pick up. Right? It is essential in your recovery journey that you learn to have real gratitude. Right. So, we try to teach these concepts to the clients, and we do gratitude lists or morning meditations and all of these things to help them build these skills. Right. So they'll list off, right, I'm grateful for team recovery. I'm grateful for my kids. I'm grateful for my family, or I'm grateful for my relationship. And I'm the facilitator. I'll challenge that. Yeah. Because the moment that team recovery hold you accountable, now you hate us and we don't care about you. So was it real gratitude? And it wasn't. It's easy to have gratitude in the moment that everything is going the way that you want it to go. But the moment when you have a setback, can you find it then? Wow. Yeah. You know what I mean? Can you find it then? And that's the challenge, right? Because, I see a lot of people, it's not just addicts. Like one thing that I learned being in treatment and then coming back outside and just being like fully outside is that addicts aren't the only people that think this way at all. No. Right? At all. I can show you a friend who, you know what I'm saying, who doesn't have an addiction problem, who has the same thinking errors that I had. So it's like that's one of those things, right? And even though I'm hard on the clients, they respect that. And I learned too in my own journey that the people who were the toughest on me were the ones that I learned to deem almost the safest, because I knew that you would tell me the truth. Hold you accountable. And you would hold me accountable, right? Even if I'm going left, right? Like you need those people in your life to be like, yo, you tripping. Who are those people? Right. Because I have blind spots, because I have trauma and all of these other things, right? I have blind spots. So I need those people. And once I understood what I needed as somebody in recovery, it became easy to give that to them. And I think that that's why they respond so well to me, because they know that, yeah, I'm tough, I'm stern, I challenge you. But also, right, when you're in crisis, they typically come seek me out.
Yeah.
You know, because they know that whatever suggestion I'm going to give is going to be a very viable option for them, and it's probably going to work.
Wow.
You know, so that just like the whole gratitude talk kind of made me think about that, because that's one of those things I hear it all the time. I'm grateful for my kids, and I'm just like, are you really?
Yeah.
You know, I'm a child of an addict. Not to say my dad hated me or anything, but he you know what I mean? Like, but there's no action. You're not putting forth any action to show that you're truly grateful.
Right.
And I that's another thing, is that I felt like with real gratitude, there has to be real action. I can't be grateful for my life and not put action into making sure that if I'm grateful for my daughter, she knows that, right? She feels my presence. If I'm grateful for my job, I show up every day and do my best, you know. And, you know, if I'm grateful for being booked and busy, then I don't take that lightly, right? And I try to be as professional as I know how to be, you know, like. Yeah.
And I hope that somebody takes from this conversation and applies to their life, because like you don't have to be an addict. You don't have to be you know, anybody that's going through anything, because you could be at your peak, and a lot of people at their peak don't have gratitude.
Yep.
Because they feel like, okay, I made it. I'm the best there is, the best there was. You know. So, you know, I don't need to be thankful, but I think we all have something to be grateful for. I'm thankful that you allow me to have you on this platform and talk about the things that we talked about. But like I said, these are three. I like to talk about three things that I'm absolutely grateful for in this moment. I do this after every show.
Okay.
At the end of every show. So what are three things that you are absolutely grateful for?
I'm definitely grateful for my recovery. I think so many things, beautiful things have stemmed from it. I'm grateful to have a voice and be willing to use my voice, because most people who knew me prior to, I would never talk about things of substance. You know, so I'm grateful, you know, that to be somebody that people want to invite on a platform, you know, and hear what I have to say, because that was a part of my problem. I didn't come from a place where people heard you.
Wow.
And also, right, I told you, like I was running behind because I'm sore today, and I'm just grateful to be able-bodied. Like that is that's one of those things, right? Like I'm so grateful to be able-bodied, to push my body to limits. You know, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I'm 38, and I also put my body through some things. And so to be able to run, right? Because that was something I did this summer, was joining a run club, and
BRB?
You know, BRB, right? And 5Ks, 10Ks, and now I'm playing flag football. So like I'm extremely grateful to have the ability to just move my body.
And I'm grateful for you being on the show. I'm grateful for your recovery. I'm grateful for you allowing yourself to be heard, and to be honest with other people about your journey. And I think that's important for us who have been through different seasons or different life experiences to talk about those experiences.
Absolutely.
Because it helps other people. Because you know, somebody may look at you as Superwoman, Wonder Woman. People may look at me as Superman.
Yeah.
And I am not.
I am not. I am flawed.
Right. We grow through
absolutely
a lot of things, and that is how we build character and build who we are as people. I'm thankful for you to be on the show. How can people book you? How can people find you on social media?
Okay. So Stevie Chanel is my tag on everything. Okay. It's at Stevie __ Chanel. I have a LinkedIn, so if you go to like my Facebook or really any of my social media sites, you'll see the LinkedIn, and you can book through the link, or you can also, I still allow people to message me on Messenger. My phone number is public, it's 419-769-6694. You can book me through that. But also, aside from booking, one thing that I absolutely enjoy is helping people find resources. So if you are somebody that you know is struggling and doesn't know what the other side looks like or how to get to the other side, and maybe wants to have a couple conversations, I'm always willing to do that. And not just for the individual who is struggling, right? But families don't know how to deal with people who struggle with alcoholism and addiction. So, you know, I enjoy being a vessel, especially in my community, right? The Black community. Feel free, right, to reach out. I've never publicly, you know, it's confidential, right? I still hold myself to the standards of my licensure. And so, you know, I love for people to reach out and find the help, because it's out there. You do not have to struggle and alone. Yeah.
All right. Well, you can find this episode if you want to share it on YouTube. It'll be on the website, 419grind.com, and on all social media platforms, also on podcast platforms as far as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and anywhere you can download podcasts. We'll see you next time on Out of Focus.